What's up, everybody? We are back. John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction, coming at you today with a review of Daniel Lovett Clark's Across the Burning Sands. This is a novella in the Legend of the Five Rings universe. And they've been coming out with single novellas for each clan for a while. They did a Scorpion one and a Phoenix one. Well, I've read both of those. This one came out. I believe there's a Mantis one out now also. And there's a Crab one due to come out. I don't know if they're going to be continuing the line all the way because I know Asmodee Games set up a new publishing wing which is working on doing full novels and the like for their different game properties. But these have been coming out for a while. I really like the format of these, actually. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. And they've got these like very nice hardcovers, which I do with my comic books. So very similar to the way I do that. Glossy cover, very lightweight, which is a nice read. I actually love the novella length personally because I don't read a ton. You notice I read a lot of comic books because I can get through those fast and then review those for you fast, and then I have content, so that makes a lot more sense to do. A novella, though, I could read in about the time I can read a large, thick graphic novel, so it works out about the same. And they come with playing cards for their game, Legend of the Five Rings. And these are alternate art cards. That's the way Fantasy Flight does their promotional cards, is they give just alternate art rather than doing different cards that you would have to buy product for otherwise. So that's that. Gives you a little bling for your card game if you play it. I played that new game once. I was a big Legend of the Five Rings card game player back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I really loved that game. And so this new game is very different. It's not the same game whatsoever. It's got the same, of course, theme and all that, but it does not have the same gameplay. So I really just never got into it and so much, but I like reading the fiction because I enjoyed the world building. And what was cool about the old game was it also had a big RPG line with it and had tons of books and tons of lore. And I've done a lot of RPGing in the L5R universe. And so, big fan of the setting. And so this setting is, of course, clan-specific to the Unicorn Clan. The Unicorn Clan was the clan of my choice back in the day, so I am very fond of the Unicorn Clan and, of course, the subject matter here. And got a nice little map of the lands of the L5R universe, which is nice to have at the start. Each chapter starts with a little bit of poetry, and it's called, and then goes right into the story. Now, the poetry doesn't have a ton to do with the story, and, you know, I like these little bits. It adds to the flavor of things and adds to the immersion when you put them in there, but it's all right. And this one is about Shinjo Shono and Moto Chagatai traveling across the burning sands. Shono's going west, you know, on clan business, making sure that this, Arab, not Arab, caliph is going to not attack them is the goal. And they go into this city and they deal with that and deal with him. He's an arrogant type of, I guess, how do you say, hedonistic type of leader who's just really into his personal wealth and all that. They meet a couple of women, one of whom is kind of like a sorceress who has a djinn who she's enslaved. One of whom we don't like at first, but it turns out she's an all right person. She's just a bit guarded. Shono has to navigate this, and Shono's also dealing with his past, in which he is upset he had to actually kill his betrothed because of a mix-up that led to matters of honor being slighted and all that. Beautiful samurai drama and enjoyable stuff. I would have actually liked to have seen that story almost a little more than I would have liked to have seen us being told about what happened and him kind of moping about it through this book. And that's what happens. So we have Shono pretty much moping almost the entire book, and it's tough on a main character when that's happening. I've written books like that also, but sometimes it can turn off readers. I'm okay with it because I definitely know when somebody's in a difficult position that they get into that sort of scenario. But Eventually, Shono realizes that there's not going to be peace. This guy is going to make a move on them, and they try to kill Shono and Chagatai. And Shono gets taken by the mad sorceress lady, who actually eats his eye. Oh my gosh, super creepy. And then he is able to break out with the help of the Jinn. And then it gets into really supernatural stuff. So there's these undead sort of people who come after them, and they have to fight them off. And then the Jinn gets ordered to kill them. And he does some cool little tricks. Now it gets into some setting stuff, which is interesting at this point and somewhat uncomfortable. I'm not sure what I think about the ending of it. What happens is a Jinn is told he must kill any Ayuchi Shugenja, who are magic users, who are under his command. And so Shono Roninizes the gal who is protecting them, so therefore she's not a Ayuchi Shugenja. Therefore, the Jinn does not have to follow orders to kill her, and he can go off. And the weight of that is really big in the setting. Really, really big in the setting. And oddly, he does not accept her back into his service afterwards, and comes up with a, I had to be real about it, and so see ya. And I just, that moment for me was like, well, she did her service to you and saved everybody, and was excellent. The least you could do is take her back at that point. And I feel like that should have been done rather than trying to rationalize her Ronin-ship and keeping that going, because that just it felt a little wrong, and it felt a little dishonorable on Shinjo Shono's part. Another odd part was when Shono was captured. He was in an arena with Chagatai, and he was fighting off some assassins, and he spends this entire time getting uncaptured without thinking about Chagatai's whereabouts. We don't know where Chagatai is. He's just elsewhere, and it just comes up later. That's a little bit of a editing job that could have been done on that point to fix it a little bit. The prose level's all right. It's very, I would say, a little over descriptive, like RPG writing can tend to be. I find that most people who write for stuff like this end up being, on the better level of amateur writing, and this is what we get here. So we get a lot of passive voice and things like that, describing things with lots of over description. Tends to happen a lot, like I said, in these types of books. But the over description serves the setting, and what I know what the intention of this is to really just paint a picture of the setting rather than actually tell a story. I mean, the story kind of is there, but it comes second. So you have to take that with a grain of salt. At the back, there is basically RPG setting notes, so you get a little bit of history of the unicorn, you get some nice art, you get some nice glossy pages added into it. I think it's a really nice touch to end the book, and I really like this aspect of these. And that's about that. There's one other issue I should probably point out. I would say, I'll get to my kind of overview of it in a second, but there are a couple lines in here that just push, like Chagatai makes a quip about, how Shono might be attracted to him. Let's talk later about that. And it's presented as a joke, but it's meant to show his wokeness as a writer. And I just hate that when that's in there. It had nothing to do with the story. Could have edited that out really easily. And they put one in at the end. And here's the other weird part, too. Shinjo Shono is... they say they're going to marry this gal from this Arab tribe or whatever. I forget what they're called. But they're outside of the main Rokugan land. And they do that to like seal a deal or whatever, but she doesn't really have a ton of power, so I'm not sure why that's done for somebody who's going to be the Unicorn Clan champion. Just rationalizing that through. And the Rokugani and all that in the setting are very, very opposed to Gaijin, who are outsiders. And I know the Unicorn are less sensitive towards that, but they still have that, especially the Shinjo family, because they're direct descendants of the main sort of gods in the storyline. So there was just a couple little setting notes in there that I was like, I'm not sure about that decision in this. Now, for the story, I liked that because it resolved his feelings for his prior fiance and whatnot, and it added something unique and fun, and I like the little romance end of it. So the story, I guess, overrides the setting in that point, which is okay for me. But I should point out that also, and they're in that with that gal that she's gonna marry him. She mentions that, I'm not going to be your second wife or whatever, and then it goes into the woke again. And Shinjo goes, "Oh yeah, well I don't have any wives." And then she goes, "Neither do I," as as if showing off the woke thing. And especially for a culture of that they're actually really culturalizing Islam within this, to where they some people go so far as they won't drink in the name of the prophet, etc. I mean, it is Islam, not Islam, in this society. So to have her make a woke statement and totally not worry about it like that, where she's actually going to have, some sort of like lesbian affair implied, come on. Again, an unnecessary woke point that just kind of took you out of the book for a second, because it actually takes you out of the setting in this instance. What can you do? So yeah, more and more of that's just creeping into all fiction all the time, and it's like you can't get away from it at this point. It's obnoxious, and I wish they'd back off of that to some extent. But overall, let's get to the story. It's had a slow start to it. So I mean, they dealt with raiders at the beginning, and then really delved into Shinjo's kind of backstory and all that, and had a lot of back and forth with Chagatai and Shono, which were just conversations about things that had happened. And so, slow start. But once it really got into the city and they really got into doing their duty for the negotiations, this was a very nice piece in terms of showing Unicorn Clan diplomacy, which is very different than diplomacy and with the rest of the empire. And the Unicorn are usually shown as just like barbaric hordes just slaughtering people in a lot of the fiction I've read. And so having a different take and a different storyline was very nice and refreshing for me, who's a person who has read a lot of lore and fiction regarding this. For a person who's first getting into it, I don't know. I would say probably the Phoenix one had a lot more action and a lot more interest for like maybe a new person in the setting in terms of just talking about these novellas. But yeah, it's I was pretty happy with the way that this storyline was very different than what I've seen typically. And it ended very nicely, and all of the complaints about the slow pacing at the beginning, by the end it really ramps up. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on at the end. Overall, this is pretty good. I would say this is like a 7.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it. I read it all in one sitting. And, I mean, minor quibbles aside, I can't ask for a lot more than that. All right. Do you love L5R? I love talking about L5R. I'll go into L5R if you guys want me to do this on the channel more. Let me know in the comments below, and we will be back soon. Maybe I'll even just discuss what I think of the current sort of Fantasy Flight incarnation of L5R and things like that. Like I said, I love this setting, and I loved the old game, both the RPG and the card game. So I definitely would love to do more with this, and if that's something your guys share an interest with me, that's cool. If you don't, let me know, because I only know what you tell me. See ya.